How's it going, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the best flying type Pokemon to power up in Pokemon GO. With that being said, let's jump straight into it. Alright, so undoubtedly the most amazing flying type Pokemon in this game currently is going to be Mega Rayquaza with Air Slash and Dragon Ascent. Now for those of you unfamiliar with how Dragon Ascent works on Rayquaza, you basically just need to use a Meteorite to get it. The only downside is that the Meteorite has been a special item only awarded during certain events. For example, during, I think, GoFest 2022, and then we had a Mega Rayquaza Raid Day, along with a Mega Rayquaza Makeup Raid Day because the first one was just awful. So those were the only events to my knowledge where you could actually get one. I think there's also like a super small chance to get one from raid battles, but it's like really small, so I wouldn't really bank on that too much. Now with that being said, I want to go over a very common question that I've been asked many times over the years, and that is going to be, what's the best IV spread to build for your Mega and possibly even just a regular? I think anything that is going to be 96% IV or higher with 15 attack ideally is going to be worthy of that Meteorite. Now if you have the shiny with a lower IV spread but it's also a shiny lucky, I also think that it's going to be worth it. Now I'm not saying you should invest into like a 13, 12, 12 shiny lucky Rayquaza, but I'm also not saying that you shouldn't. Because when it comes down to raid battles, like the IV difference isn't that drastic. Now if you're going to be running this in PvP, that definitely changes things, but if you're just going to be running this in raid battles, going with a shiny lucky variant is definitely a good contender in my opinion. Now meteorites aside, let's talk about some other really good options for the flying type category. So first of all, we have Shadow Moltres, which is arguably the best flying type in the game outside of Rayquaza. So for this Pokemon, you want to ideally have Wing Attack plus Sky Attack. Sky Attack is going to be a Legacy raid exclusive moveset, so if you don't have it, you will have to use a Charge TM. And keep in mind, Moltres doesn't have access to any other flying type charge move, so it's either all or nothing with this guy. You have to use the Elite TM. That being said, I think Shadow Moltres is an excellent investment for the flying type category, especially if you were lucky enough to get a Shadow Shiny Moltres. I tried so hard for this. I did over like 30 to 40 raids, could not get it. And yeah, it's a bit sad because that shiny Moltres just looks so damn good, man. So I'm really jealous for any of you guys out there who actually have this. Next up, we're going to take a look at Shadow Staraptor with Gust plus Fly. Now you could also go with Wing Attack, which is going to be a non-legacy moveset. Gust, I believe, was the Calm Day exclusive moveset, so if you don't have it, that's okay. It's not a drastic difference, not something that I would Elite TM for. Now what's actually really cool about Shadow Staraptor is that this Pokemon is practically on the same level as Shadow Moltres, but it's going to be a lot less resource intensive. So when it comes down to it, I actually think Shadow Staraptor is going to be the better investment compared to Shadow Moltres, but if you have the Shadow Shiny Moltres, that is going to be the undisputed winner. Following that, we're going to have Yveltal with Gust plus Oblivion Wing. Oblivion Wing is going to be a Legacy signature moveset for it, and I believe this was raid exclusive. Now Yveltal is a fantastic Pokemon, guys, because this also has relevance in the Open Master League, ranking in the top 30 right now. So compared to a lot of the other options that we mentioned, this is definitely the best of both worlds. Plus I think the shiny is just amazing. It's basically shiny bacon. I just think that's so cool. Now following that, we're going to have Shadow Honchkrow with Peck plus Sky Attack. No legacy movesets here, which is actually really nice considering that every other Pokemon that we've talked about so far has a legacy moveset. Now at this point, we are starting to scale down on the power potential, so I probably wouldn't take Shadow Honchkrow past level 35. That's definitely a good stopping point in my opinion. Next up, we do have a better option though, and that's going to be Shadow Ho-Oh, which also ranks top 20 in the Open Master League. So this, again, just like Yveltal, best of both worlds. But the major downside here is that Shadow Ho-Oh for the flying type meta has to have a very specific fast move. That is going to be Hidden Power Flying. This is random on every single one that you catch. So if you don't have the right hidden power typing, that's all that you get. So if you have Bug, it's only going to be Bug. If you have Fire, it's only going to be Fire. But if you were lucky enough to get a flying type version of this, then this can actually be used as a pretty good flying type attacker in the raid/gym meta. Now I do also want to clarify that you can actually TM this moveset to get like Incinerate and then just always TM it back to get Hidden Power Flying. I do hope that makes sense because this Pokemon is definitely worth building for the Open Master League right now as well. Now finally, our last Pokemon I wanted to go over is going to be Tornadus in its Therian form, with Gust plus the legacy moveset Bleak Windstorm. This is going to be the signature moveset for it, and honestly I don't think I've ever really recommended this Pokemon in the past. It's always been too low on the list to actually recommend. But that being said, with the legacy moveset and it also being available during the Univitor recently, I think if you got a good IV spread on this, it's definitely worth building, especially if you're able to get it from a lucky trade. With that being said, that pretty much covers all the raid relevant options though. Now let's quickly go through some PvP options, and we have some pretty good ones in the flying type category. So we're going to be starting off with Jumpluff. Now, specifically, Shadow Jumpluff is #1 right now in the Open Great League. So if you actually have this is 100% worth building. When it comes down to the Shadow option, Acrobatics is recommended, but when it comes down to the regular option, Energy Ball is actually recommended. I definitely think this has a lot to do with that Shadow boost, getting the extra damage off, so if you have the Shadow with the Legacy moveset Acrobatics, definitely worth building right now. And if you don't, that's honestly okay. Energy Ball is going to be a good option as well. Following that, we have Emolga, which is going to be in the top 50 for the Open Great League right now with Thunder Shock plus Acrobatics and Discharge. Just like we talked about in my Electric type video, this has definitely been a more common Pokemon that we have seen within the last year, so there's a good chance you guys probably have one with a decent IV spread. The next Pokemon is going to be Mandibuzz, ranking in the top 5 for the Open Great League and the top 30 for the Open Ultra League, so fantastic option currently. With Snarl plus Dark Pulse and Aerolace, it's going to be a Dark and Flying type Pokemon, and all things considered, this is definitely one, if you guys do have a good IV spread, that is 100% worth building. Mandibuzz has definitely been a top Pokemon in this meta for quite some time, like we're talking the past few seasons here, so it could get dethroned. That's definitely a possibility just given how much it has reigned supreme recently, but at the same time, if you are able to build one, you're going to be having a lot of fun using this. Now, a recent Pokemon addition into the game was Corviknight, and this evolves from its base stage form Urukidi. Now, ideally for the best moveset, you want to go with Sand Attack plus Sky Attack and Iron Head. Iron Head is going to be a legacy moveset, so you do have to give it the Elite TM for that, but given its relevance currently ranking in the top 10 for the Open Great League and ranking at #2 for the Open Ultra League, I think if you actually have a good IV spread, it is easily worth building. So I was telling you guys earlier, like the PvP options for flying types are phenomenal. They're all really, really good. Now, speaking of another really good flying type Pokemon and arguably a very elusive one to get, we're going to have Galarian Moltres. This currently ranks in the top 20 for the Open Ultra League and the top 60 for the Open Master League. So you can only get Galarian Moltres from your Daily Adventure Incense, and these have a very, very low catch rate. If you are lucky enough to actually encounter the shiny, you don't have to worry about it running away unless you actually run out of Pokeballs or your game glitches out. There are some situations where these shiny Galarian birds can run away, but under normal circumstances, they should not be able to run away. That being said though, even just getting a regular Galarian Moltres is pretty rare to encounter, and one of my friends had even said that they would Master Ball it if they eventually got one. That should pretty much tell you how good this Pokemon actually is and how difficult it is to get in the game, because not only do you have to get a good IV spread, I mean, you gotta find this guy. Now, for those of you out there who were lucky enough to get this, the ideal moveset is going to be Sucker Punch plus Ancient Power and Brave Bird. Sucker Punch got a recent moveset adjustment, that's why this Pokemon is so good now. Following that, one of my favorite Pokemon that I've used for PvP is going to be Talonflame, ranking in the top 100 for the Open Great League and the top 50 for the Open Ultra League. So it's definitely gone down a little bit, but it's still going to be a fantastic choice. The moveset does vary with this guy. Ideally, you want to go with Incinerate plus Flame Charge and Brave Bird, but it also has access to Fly now, so if you don't want to get the debuff from using Brave Bird, you can definitely go with that option as well. Incinerate is going to be a legacy fast move from the Community Day, so if you guys don't have that, you do need to use an Elite Fast TM, but I think for Talonflame, if you either get the Hundo for the Ultra League or you get a really good IV spread for the Great League, it's definitely worth building. I think it's more worth building for the Ultra League, so again, like this is one of those few exceptions where the Hundo is ideal for PvP, just because Talonflame goes right under that 2500 CP limit. Next up, we have a Pokemon that I did not expect to actually talk about, but when I was doing research for this video, it came up, so that Pokemon is going to be Bombardier. Now, to my knowledge, this Pokemon has only been available from raid battles, which means ideally you would want to trade this with somebody else to get a good IV spread for the Open Ultra League. Now, I personally don't know a single person who actually has invested into this guy, but I'm sure there are some people out there, so if you know anybody or if you're one of those people, please let me know in the comment section down below, because having a Bombardier for the Open Ultra League is actually quite impressive. Next up, we're going to have Zapdos for the Open Great League and also ranking in the top 80 for the Open Ultra League. The Shadow actually ranks a little bit better than the regular one here, so if you have the Shadow, even better. If you don't, that's okay. I think Zapdos, its best place right now in the overall meta is the Open Ultra League, because you can also use that as a raid attacker as well. I am specifically talking about the Shadow here. It is going to require a legacy fast move, which is going to be Thunder Shock, and then for the charge moves, you want to go with Drill Peck plus Thunderbolt. So when it comes down to it, if you actually have a good IV spread, either on the regular Zapdos or on the Shadow, I do think it is worth building for the Open Ultra League. Next up, we're going to have Gliscor, which is going to be relevant in the Open Great League and top 50 in the Open Ultra League. You know, to be honest, I didn't think this Pokemon would do that well, but I think it has a lot to do with Sand Attack. Because of the Wing Attack nerf, Gliscor went down in the meta, and then because of the Sand Attack buff, Gliscor went up in the meta. So, I mean, all things considered right now at the time of making this video is definitely worth investing into. Now finally, our last two options are going to be legendary choices, and these two are very important, so pay attention to it right now. The first one is going to be Ho-Oh. We kind of talked about this earlier with the Shadow variant, but I'm going to talk about the regular variant right now. It's going to be top 20 in the Open Master League, so definitely worth building. If you were able to get a purifiable hundo, I think that it's also worth, considering. Like I mentioned earlier, I actually built a level 50 Ho-Oh with all the resources I was able to collect, and it has been a lot of fun to run in the Open Master League, so if you guys do have this choice, I definitely recommend investing into it. Now finally, our last Pokemon is going to be Ho-Oh's counterpart, Lugia. Now Lugia is not useful in any aspect of the game except for Master League and PvP, so if you actually were able to get a hundo, a purifiable hundo, whatever it is, this is the only place where you can essentially use it. Please do not use your Lugia in raid battles. I don't know how many times I have to say it, but Lugia in raid battles is just awful, so please do not use it there. For the ideal moveset, you want to go with Dragon Tail plus Sky Attack and Aeroblast. Aeroblast is going to be a legacy moveset for it, and it currently ranks in the top 50 right now for the Open Master League. It did used to rank better, and I think that's because Sky Attack was better, but since Sky Attack got nerfed, that's why it went down a little bit. It's still going to be good to use because Lugia's typing being a flying type and psychic type gives it some excellent resistances. So overall, I think Lugia is still a fantastic option to build for the Open Master League, and if you have both Ho-Oh and Lugia, I think that's just a really cool nod to Generation 2. Anyways, with that being said, that pretty much covers all the best flying type Pokemon you guys can currently power up in Pokemon Go. If you still want to check out some more content kind of going over some of the other typings, you guys can watch these two videos next.